needs to be more grace in that reality.
I don't even have words. Like, I don't even have words. You know, it's fucked up.
It is. It is. And, you know, there's so many. I look on Facebook and I get exhausted looking at all of the, I call them the what white people should do lists. You've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
Read these
I probably put some out. So.
Donate to this cause.
Yeah. Read this book. Yeah.
Class. You know,
yes.
Don't say this. Don't say that. Oh my God, don't ever say that. You know, yeah. I wouldn't want to be white right now because you guys just can't win. You can't win. You know, everything that you do is going to be perceived by this black person, that black person is wrong. And that's just, to me, that kind of stops the movement, right? When anyone feels like they can't do the right thing, and you might have seen this with children, when children feel like nothing they do is right, they just stop trying.
Yep.
They just give up. Everything that, if I feel like every time I try and draw something, you know, my friends laugh at the picture. I'm not
right. Anymore. Or sing, or yeah.
Every time I try and clean up, I break a glass and mommy gets mad. I'm just not going to do this anymore, right? And so I'm thinking, how are we supposed to get to this spiritual utopia where we're all one, when every time a white person asks a question on Facebook, they're shut down, shamed, called names, called racist, threatened to get their job taken away? It's like, it's frustrating for me to see that. And that is why I made a conscious decision to go on Facebook and connect with white people, because I know y'all have questions, and I know you guys are you're trying. And the best thing that I feel like I can do as a black woman is to hold your hand and say, listen, I might not know the answer, but I'll stand here and we'll sit here and we'll just sit and stare at each other till we both figure it out. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm here.
That's amazing. I love that. And those of you guys that are watching this on Facebook, Christina, do you want to offer that people can just kind of get in touch with you directly and ask questions?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just like I did on your Facebook. For those of you who don't know how I ended up here, it's actually a great story. I had decided at the beginning of all of the writing that my intention is to have conversations with white people, because I wanted to understand. I wanted to understand your experience, and I wanted to understand your perspective, because I didn't. And the only way to get that is to actually talk and communicate with, and to do it with an open heart, without judgment. And so I would go on Facebook every morning. I was very conscious, and I would look at Facebook walls to see what conversations felt safe for me to engage. And I saw Erin had posted this beautiful sharing, this authentic, raw, scary sharing of how she had an experience when she was in public transportation, and she saw these 4 black kids playing. And I saw the beautiful responses and sharing of other white women, white people on this post saying, you know what? I feel icky, but I've also been scared and grabbed my purse and whatever when I saw black kids. That's really fucked up. Oh my gosh. And what I want to say to all the white people from time immemorial that see this is that I see that you're trying. And you don't have to know what to do. Just showing up is enough. So when I saw that people were authentic, that's when I said, okay, I want to jump in, and I want to connect, and I want to understand, and I want to talk. And it's going to be ugly, and it's going to be sticky, and it's going to be painful, and we're going to get our feelings hurt, and we're going to be offended, and we're going to be pissed off, and there's going to be a lot of fuck yous going back and forth. And I want to dive into that, because that's the meat. That's how we're going to move forward, is to be in that gunk together. Because, you know, and there's this idea that, you know, we didn't cause slavery, you know, it's for white people to resolve. I don't disagree with that. And I know that my role is different. I respect that there are Black people who feel that way. I understand it. But for me, for Christina, I am choosing to fight oppression and racism this way, in this platform, with people that look different than me.
And I'm sure huge and scary to do it that way.
Yeah, it's not a cakewalk, because I'm very vulnerable here. I'm very open to attack and being hurt. But to me, that does not outweigh the opportunity to just connect with. If I can just get one white person, just give me one. Just give me one white person that is willing to have the conversation. It was worth whatever pain and attack that I endure. Like, that is my purpose and my intention for being a part of these conversations.
Well, and I just want to share that honestly, what I have seen from all of my Black friends and all the people that are in groups with me is their willingness to engage and be kind and gentle. Honestly, way more than the white people. We've been in what a friend of mine called a woke off lately, which I just thought was hilarious. It was like, yeah, that's so perfect, because that's who we see chiming in and kind of, shaming a little bit each other. That's what I see is mostly white people, and whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I keep personally landing in what we were talking about earlier, in this middle spot of like, what's my part? How much is too much? Like, if I'm beating people over the head with things, like, is the message getting through? Then, which, like you said, so beautifully, like with kids, if you're beating them over the head with something, they're not going to listen. They're just going to shut down in various ways, right? They're going to rebel. They're going to go within. They're going to just pretend that they're doing it, but not because they want to, just because they're scared of you. There's all those ways of reacting, but
right.
Yeah. And I think that's just, for me personally, my continual question right now is like, our speaker yesterday was saying, standing in that place of curiosity of like, wow, that's really interesting. What was normal like for you? When somebody says, I just want to go back to normal, okay, well, what was normal like for you? And just getting really curious, instead of my approach, which has been like, that's fucked up,
Yeah.
Which is not helpful.
Right. And that might be true. What they are, what they believe might be fucked up, but it's really, and I definitely thank my therapy background, because it allows me to really hear people and see people without the judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear people talk about the rioters, or talk about anything, or anyone doing something different than them, I stop and think, they are only doing what I would be doing if I were them.
Right.
So your friends that you have conversations with, if you had their lived experience, you might have the same exact opinions and perspectives as they do. Right?
And did, right? I mean, this is a process. I have been there.
Right. And it is a process for all of us. And we really are. I really look at people with compassion. I still get very pissed off when I see something on Facebook. And in that moment, I have to decide, what is the energy exchange here?
Mm-hmm.
If I engage with this person, is it going to hurt me? Am I going to be hurt by this? Is that worth the conversation? What is my intention? Is my intention to sit on my own high horse,
mm-hmm.
and tell them off and tell them this and tell them this and make them see the truth? Or is it really to listen because I'm curious and I don't understand why they think that way, right? And there are many times when I've gotten riled up, and it's because, no, I'm going to speak with authority, and I'm going to tell them that they are wrong, and I hope they die. And I just have to be real about that. That's where I am in that moment. That person said something, that's what I think. And I accept it and I own it, and then I just leave it alone. And then there are other times where it's like, no, I actually see a glimmer a lot of times I hear pain from white people, especially white people who say, I grew up poor. There's no white privilege. I grew up without a dad in the home. I grew up with my mom strung out on drugs. I grew up on welfare. I grew up, I've been stopped by the cops and they beat the crap out of me. And I believe that stuff happens to white people. I do. The difference is it didn't happen because you're white.
It's your skin, right?
Your skin didn't make all that happen to you.
Right.
And white privilege isn't saying that your experience is not, that your life is easy. It's saying that this isn't what makes it hard, right?
Right.
And that is my most frustrating point when I have these conversations, is that when that happens, you're making it about you, right? You're making this conversation about race about you, when I'm trying to tell you about my Black pain. So are you really listening to my Black pain? Or are you just waiting for me to be quiet so you can talk about your pain? And there's no right or wrong in that. It is what it is. But let's call a thing a thing. And I hear the pain of people who grew up in poverty. When I hear a white person talk that way, and I dig deep and I sit with my intuition, I sit and I close my eyes and I say, you know what? This man is so resentful because his dad beat the shit out of him every day. And he didn't have enough food to eat. And he was beaten by the cops. So when he sees Black people saying it, that's why the anger comes out. Because he has old trauma wounds that haven't been healed. And he's triggered when he sees our trauma. And then now he's attacking us, right? And being able to have that sort of objective view is what allows me to have these conversations and to just kind of enter into these territories that are risky and scary, because it's that pain. We speak from pain. And when people are racist, I think, wow, what happened? Where did you learn that? Why do I make you unsafe? In what other parts of your life do you feel unsafe? Did a Black person take something from you? Did you not get a date? Did you not get a job? Did you not get something? And not all the time, but sometimes you'll find some personal experience that made them think, okay, no, now I just hate all Black people, right? So I think there needs to be bravery in these conversations, to be brave and say, you know what, I feel pain and this is what hurts.
Yeah, and I guess what I would add is what I've seen, Trump do really well, which is it wasn't even necessarily a personal experience, right? Because you've got people who live in towns where they've never even seen a Black person, right? But when we otherize this whole group of people, we get to put all of our shit onto them.
Yes.
We get to say it's the Mexicans who are stealing our jobs. It's the, Black people rioting in these places. And these are the people we need to fear instead of, looking within and fearing the shit that's in there. All that, like you said, all the old unhealed trauma, all the old wounds, I mean, growing up poor in Appalachia, like, I'm not wishing that on anybody, and that's how they come to this conversation with all of their stuff that's being fed by the media, being fed by Fox News, being fed by our white supremacist president, Yeah.
And it's unrealistic to think that people aren't going to bring their trauma to this conversation, right?
Or any conversation,
It's we carry our trauma, whether we name it, recognize it, acknowledge it or not. It's there, and it's going to seep into the conversation. And my hope is that people do their own work. And I think if there was one request that I had of all white people, it would be to own your shit and to do your work. That's the best thing you can do for us, right? Is to just do your own work. And I think Black people we have a lot of healing that we have to do within our own communities. So Black people, we need to heal the trauma, that intergenerational trauma that we still carry in ourselves, that we still carry in our bodies, of being stolen from our land where we were kings and queens and prosperous, forced on a treacherous journey to we don't know where.
Most didn't survive.
Right? To become slaves. We saw our husbands taken away from us, so you have the disintegration of the family unit. Our children are sold off, never to be seen again. Our mothers, our women are raped repeatedly. And there is trauma healing that needs to be done in the Black community. There is colorism that happens within the Black community that needs to be addressed and healed directly. There is so much trauma within our own community. So I think white people need to be over here and do their work, right? Because in your cells, you have the trauma of owning and treating as property people that look like you. No matter how wrong you know it to be in 2020, that is in your cells. It's there. You can't pray it away. You can't light a candle for it to go away. You have to dig deep and let it come up, right? And really, really face that trauma. So I think the white people go over here and deal with that, and the Black people go over here and we deal with our community stuff, and only then can we come together and say, oh, okay. And you do it in your romantic relationships, and you do it in your business partnerships, don't you? You know, your partner came to the relationship with all of their shit, and you came to the relationship with all of your, and things came up to where you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is some old stuff. This is pre-you stuff. It has nothing to do with you, but you're being impacted. And you had to go back and you had to deal with it, heal from it, and then you came back anew with your partner, right? But it wasn't until you did your work. And that is why I think that until we separate and do our work, that we can't get to the love and light, we are all one, because we're not all one. When I came to this country, when my ancestors came to this country, it was very clear that we weren't all one. So how can you now ask me to adopt that belief in 2020? You can't. You just can't, right? And so I think that's the conversation that needs to happen before we can move forward.
What do you think a healed world looks like?
I think a healed world is one where people are allowed to live without fear, to jog in their neighborhoods freely without fear of being shot, where children are allowed to play with anyone that looks any way from any other neighborhood, because that's what kids do. I think the world looks like one where if my mommy gets sick, I don't think twice about taking her to any hospital, because I know any doctor will give her the gold standard of care, no matter what, right? It looks like, I think the perfect world looks like a lot like white privilege, where you don't have to think about your hair or your color or any of that when you do anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When I was headed down to the protest the other day, I remember seeing something on Twitter about like, don't go protest alone. And I honestly thought in my head, like, well, that's kind of a weird thing to say. Like, who's going to be holding up a sign by themselves? And then as I was going there, I was thinking, oh my God, that wasn't for me. You know, that was for people of color who are going to these things. And hey, bring a buddy with you, because in case something happens, there needs to be someone there. It didn't even occur to me. Like it didn't even enter into my head, because I've never feared the cops, you know, except maybe when I was like 16 and they would bust kids for drinking all the time.
Yeah. Which
happened often because these cops in this white neighborhood had nothing else to do. That's literally all they did, was bust teenagers. And if you know me from high school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That was the only time I ever feared a cop. But after that, you know, it's like it never occurred to me. And I was thinking about that on the way to one of the protests and thinking, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly why I'm going, because it doesn't occur to me to fear a cop ever. Like, It's not even in my worldview. It's not even, if I get pulled over, I'm like thinking, well, maybe they'll just let me go with a warning. That's what I'm thinking. And, 50% of that time that happens, right? Like,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's fucked up.
It is. It is. And when I went to a protest a few weeks ago, I had to write my boyfriend's name and phone number on my arm because I had to go to that protest thinking they might find my body. Something will happen and I'm separated from my purse and my cell phone. If they find my body, they need to know who to call to identify me and to come in and identify my body. So I had to write his name, Joe, and his phone number on my arm. And I can't tell you what they did to me is I'm literally marching down the street. I have to assume and prepare and have the conversation. Joe, this is my mom's phone number. Don't call her first. She'll be too upset. Call my brother. Tell my brother something happened to me. He will relay the information to my mom. So I had to tell, this is how you prepare for my death. Because I might not come back from this protest. Right?
And all I thought about was, did I pack my sunscreen?
Yeah. And that's why we need to have these conversations so that we're aware of the other experience. And I also want to talk a moment about white guilt, right? Because I know a lot of white people feel guilty for being white, but you no more asked to be white than I asked to be black. You didn't. You didn't. Your mom got with your dad, they both happen to be white, and then boom, here we go, and here's Aaron, right? That's what happened. And so this is where we are in 2020. In 2020, you are a white girl. In 2020, I'm a black girl. And we have to start from there. And what does that mean? And start unpacking it. Because to me, guilt and shame, they do serve a purpose. They tell us that, whoa, there's something that's brushing up against my moral compass that's like, whoa, it needs attention, right? And then let that go. Because your guilt isn't what's going to connect us. It's going to keep us further apart. Because you're going to be so focused on, I feel guilty, I feel shamed, I, that you can't open up to me. And what needs to happen is this opening up to me, right? And me feeling guilty because I'm black and my dad was a doctor and my mom's a nurse. And so we grew up upper class. Do I feel guilty because there are black people who grew up poor and didn't have the privileges that I had, right? That doesn't serve a purpose either, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guilt and shame that is keeping us apart.
It's funny you're naming that because, I feel like this is the work I do around money with my entrepreneurs. And, I'm always banging the drum of like, not only do you not feel guilty for what you have, you get to expand into more. And so I'm so glad you're naming that and giving us that reframe, because that's definitely where I've been hanging out lately.
Yeah.
Definitely been hanging out there lately. And I haven't managed to shift it. I haven't managed to shift into like that space of openness that I need to be in for listening to the story. Well, I have been listening to the stories too, but for just being open, like, okay, what am I being asked to do here, instead of the spinning of white guilt and shame. And,
And I think that's, if there were a couple of major barriers that I can identify to prevent connection between black and white people, I would say that it's black rage and white guilt and shame. Those things are polarizing. It's keeping us apart. But we have to process through it, right? We have to name it. We have to write about it. We have to get it out of our bodies, because that's where the fuck it is, in our bodies.
Yep. That's somatic processing.
Yeah, so you have to figure out, how do I get it out of my body, right? Is it through conversation? Is it through singing? Is it through dance? Is it through anger? Is it through rage? What way can you get it out of your body and name it? You can't just say, yeah, I'm really pissed off about that. Yeah, that's really fucked up. I feel better now. No, you don't, because you didn't do anything. So, you have to really, really dig in deep. And that's going to look different for everybody in every community. This is the way that I am dealing with my Blackness and how I define that and how I feel about race relations. Your way might be different. Someone else's way is going to be different. But I think the work is in figuring out what that is. How do you unpack all of that?
Awesome. I love it. Oh my God. I was making notes. When I keep looking this out, I was making notes so I can add them to the post so people know what we talked about. And
I can talk all day about this. So please, white people, email me. There's no question that is stupid, that's racist, that I can't believe this white goes. No. I need you to ask me so that we can have a I welcome it. I want it. I have made space in my life for this connection. So please email me, and I will tell you the truth. I will absolutely tell you the truth. It's I experience it. I speak for me. I don't speak for all Black people, but I can tell you my experience through my conversations and from my heart, what my answer is. So please, I love emails. I sit on my sofa in my pajamas and I respond to emails. So I'd love to hear from you guys.
What's a good email address that you would be willing to share?
Email address is Dr. C SEM as in Mary PLE @gmail.com.
All right, you might get some questions.
I hope I do. I want this to be the start of an ongoing conversation. That's my intention. So yes.
Well, mine too. I wanted to open up these spaces to people who had a voice, had something to say, had something they wanted to share and engage in. So I'm just so thankful for you. I'm so thankful you reached out on that post. And so you, like Sasha said, I mean, you are a powerhouse, you're amazing, and I'm thankful to know you and that you were here with us. Cool. Well, is there anything you want to leave us with? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts, no, it's just, everyone that showed up today, that's part of doing your work. And I thank you for showing up today. That is, for me, one of the greatest acts of love and friendship is to just show the fuck up. You don't know what to do. I don't know what to do either, but can we sit together in this space and not know together? That's the kind of life I want, is where we're just a whole bunch of people sitting around not knowing what to do, because I don't want to do this stuff by myself. I can't. So that's my parting, thought. I thank everyone for just listening and showing up, and thank you, Erin, for having this space. And please email me and just let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you experienced this, what might have come up, any feelings that came up, anything that comes up with you guys. I want to know about it and share.
Thank you. So much gratitude for you, Christina, and thanks to everybody who showed up live. I'm doing these every day at 2 p.m. this whole week, and every person who shows up live, we are donating to our speaker's cause of choice, which for Christina is Color of Change, which is what it was yesterday too, for Shamus. Yeah, so they're going to get some more donations. Cool. Well, thank you. And yeah, my white friends, if you guys have questions for me, obviously feel free to reach out. You guys know where to find me. And Christina gave us her email address too. So thank you.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.